So I just want to say that I have no idea what Paul is going to say. We haven't rehearsed this. We did not script any of this. We did not discuss the definitions. So I'm just waiting for Paul to let me know what vertical clouds means.
Okay, no pressure then.
No pressure.
I suppose I came at this one from the fact that, you're starting to see the term vertical cloud more and more. We'll come back to who's talking about it in a minute. But, if you think about cloud, it is inherently horizontal. And therefore you're thinking, what on earth is a vertical cloud? If you look at the three layers of cloud, if we can sort of categorize it as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, the bottom layer is absolutely horizontal. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're effectively using the same technology. It's not a vertical, it's not a vertical solution. PaaS potentially, could be. And you look at that and think, and I've got a specific example. I've been working with a company in the trading space, in the financial services trading space. So, like trading exchange, so currency exchange, stocks and shares, those sort of things. And of course, in that environment, you've got very specific requirements in terms of speed, latency, access to data, analysis, and you need the exchange data coming in, and you need sentiment analysis coming in. And I've been working with a company that has actually put together a platform that performs. They'd like to say it performs faster than even the fastest sort of in-house development, because the likes of a Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs, all those ones spent absolute fortunes on getting the fastest tech out there, because obviously a microsecond delay costs them millions in terms of lost trades.
Yeah.
But they've developed a platform that you put in the cloud. Really, really interesting. Very, very good. Very specific. But interesting, even that platform itself has capability to deliver the same sort of performance for ad serving or for multiple, the real-time gaming, real-time sort of betting type environments. And so even there, although it's like a use case. So rather than being a vertical cloud, there is a specific use case where the platform takes away all the problems from the developers of applications and said, I'll deliver you the absolute best environment. But again, is it truly vertical, or is it more a use case? And then I came back to the thought, well, actually, when you look at verticals, they're usually around applications. So isn't software as a service the ultimate, if you like, representation of a vertical cloud? Because actually, if you think about it, your software applications are very specific to individual companies, markets, groups of companies, or whatever. So, okay, maybe vertical clouds have been around for a long time, and it's really just a marketing exercise. And that there's a danger in that too, isn't there? In the sense that people can call it I've got a vertical cloud, and the reality is they haven't. One of the things that slightly winds me up and has done for many, many years, even prior to cloud, is this idea that things like financial services are a vertical. I have a story I asked people who are sort of talking around IT and infrastructure and vertical markets, etc. And people say, "Oh, we're in financial services," and it's very broad ranging. You've got everything from Lloyd's Bank on the high street, through mortgage companies to insurance companies, down to these high frequency traders, all very, very different. So the question I asked somebody, when they come and talk about vertical markets is Lloyd's Bank more like Merrill Lynch's trading division or Betfair? And so people stop and go, actually, the requirements, the technology requirements for Betfair are much closer to Merrill Lynch than Merrill Lynch's requirements are to Lloyd's TSB. So again, the danger is when people start talking about vertical clouds is that they generalize, and you end up without the right sort of solution and having to spend more and more time customizing it for the specific vertical you want to go to, which again, to my mind, is antithesis of a cloud environment.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? So we're doing two things. Firstly, cloud, I still think, is inherently horizontal. And the second thing is it's the sort of ability for everybody to lay their applications on the top of that, come hell and high water. If you start, making niche platforms and niche things underneath it, okay, maybe that's exactly what business needs, fine. But is it a cloud? All those sort of questions come to mind. And then you can argue the contrary that says, well, Bloor's view of cloud is it's a consumption model. So as long as you make that consumption model pay as you go, infinitely scalable, at speed, all those sort of things, maybe that's fine. But I think all I really wanted to talk about here was if you're, purchasing, if you're an IT director, if you're a business leader, and somebody walks through the door and says, I've got the vertical cloud for you, think long and hard about, does it do the functionality you need? And are you sacrificing some of the benefits of the cloud in terms of, making costs operational rather than sort of having to invest a lot up front? And are you then having to do an awful lot of customization, which ultimately is going to unstitch you in the long term? So I think you just have to be careful looking at the term. I mean, if you use SAP or PeopleSoft, and that is a complete end-to-end, that's fine. But if somebody suddenly comes and says, I've got a platform, a vertical platform, you've got to think, actually, is that what I really need? So I think it's just a cautionary tale. I like so much in the IT industry, as soon as a term, and this is really what I want to bring up, as soon as a term gets a level of currency, and I mean, Google Cloud have got 14 or 15 vertical clouds, AWS tout vertical clouds, Microsoft's probably got more reason than most to tout vertical clouds. But as soon as that currency gains, everybody else jumps on the bandwagon. And suddenly you get everybody saying, oh, I've got a vertical cloud. What on earth does that mean? Cloud ultimately is pretty horizontal. So I think that, again, I could go on sort of meandering about that, but I mean, that's just, I think, be careful about that. Just look at the underlying, requirements and say, does that really do what I want it to do? And is it, is the vertical actually the vertical I'm in? And I'm back to am I in financial services or am I in financial trade?
Right. Yeah. So I okay, now that you've kind of defined what you meant by that, I can see that, and that's an interesting concept, and that's what would normally be sort of generally expected to be a kind of a platform or an environment that's kind of universal, and you can really try and fit everything else into it. You're kind of trying to get it to fit to the application or the the area of the market that you're trying to address with that, which is interesting. It's kind of a bespoke cloud sort of thing.
Yeah, it is. But again,
it's almost, sorry to interrupt, but it's and this might be a little bit flippant, but it's almost like a mid-range computer, really, mid-range server system. It's like an AS400.
So, absolutely. It'll do
a dedicated platform for only doing a few things and completely inflexible.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You start to give up the flexibility of the cloud generally. And so when somebody says, I've got a cloud, you've actually got to go and think, does it actually meet the criteria for cloud in terms of
exactly
pay for what you use, ability to scale up and scale down, all the sort of issues that sort of we've got come to accept as part of the cloud environment. Or is it glorified managed service of a legacy environment? And that's the danger, that you actually end up with something that is effectively a legacy application of being managed and some sort of financial arrangement that makes it look like it's a cloud. But the reality is, when you want to change something, it takes a long time to do. So again, I think, and I'm not saying that, the clouds that Google and AWS and Azure are pushing are not genuine clouds, but I think it's worth people just taking a close look at how that hangs together and what that means for their, because if you have to tailor it to meet your specific vertical requirement, then almost by implication, you're losing some, if not all, of the benefits of the cloud.
Yes, I mean, and also let's not forget that these general public clouds that we have are also trying to offer those kind of specific, workload sort of environments as well, and they're actually, genuinely interested in doing that. For example, and I'm sure everybody else is doing this as well, but just as a kind of a more up-to-date example is AWS, doing their own ARM-based processors. So that's really, going to be beneficial for those people who want to number crunch. So that sort of HPC specific market, that high performance computing market, HPC market, can actually start considering, very seriously, doing HPC in AWS, thanks to that infrastructure that AWS is providing, and they for that type of application, because they know that type of application is heavy on compute and requires blah blah blah. So all of the things that it needs are basically they're trying to cater for that.
Yeah, but that's a use case, not a vertical cloud. Because actually HPC will be required in a number of different vertical industries. And again. And one of the things that I'm finding sort of fascinating, and it's the sort of mismatch of understanding at the sort of the business manager board level, is that this idea that it's just racks and racks and racks of pizza servers, pizza box, rack and rack together.
Yeah.
Actually, when you look at the trading application one was an absolute classic, which was a combination of GPUs, field programmable gate arrays, different, non-volatile memory, everything to make this thing really fly, which is anything but a general purpose. It's a specific use case. And so I keep coming back to the think use case rather than vertical. But I agree with you. I mean, there's lots of different, who would have thought a few years ago that, you'd get AI in the cloud? Again, because it's a high performance compute.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching this talk. If you enjoyed the content, please comment, share, like, and subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.